Have you ever wondered how not to run a marathon? What exactly you shouldn't do when running a marathon? Well, if that's you, be sure to stick around because you're about to find out. Welcome to episode 2 in my mental health marathon series, which follows me as I run 12 marathons this year to raise money for mental health charities. In this episode, I'm going to talk to you about how not to run a marathon based on my experience of running a marathon from Worcester to Birmingham on the canal path.
Here we are, marathon 2 on the Worcester to Birmingham canal. Finn is with me here at the start. That's my dad, who's on the bike today.
It was at this moment he knew. He f***ed up.
12 marathons, 12 months, one mission, let's have it.
So, without further ado, let's jump into the video and see what exactly went wrong.
5k in, a month off running pretty much. I am feeling it a bit. Finn here's nailing it. He's training for the marathon. Feeling a bit stiff today, there's a few cobwebs to blow off, but head down and we'll be all right. Let's do this. Let's have it.
So the first 5k, there's really not a lot to report. I think the biggest thing is that the terrain was smooth, the weather was cold, but all in all, things were actually really quite okay. My biggest concern, as you've probably picked up from that first clip, is the fact that I hadn't really run for a month between my first marathon at the end of January and this second marathon in February. And that was mainly down to the fact that it took about 10 days to recover from the first marathon. And at the end of that 10-day period, I then went away for a week. Can't complain. I had fun, but I didn't run. And then when I came back, I had about a week to train, which was fine, but I was still a bit apprehensive as I hadn't got much long distance running in between the marathons, which I was expecting to do a little more. But yeah, all in all, felt good, felt optimistic, felt positive, and there was 35 odd K ahead of me, which I was ready to tackle.
We're 10k down, he's ploughing through the muddy terrain of the West Country canal system, but I can assure you, he's going strong. He's a natural born athlete. Here he is. I'm staying on for a half marathon today. Beautiful weather. The best day for it. Love it. Absolutely stunning.
So yeah, 10k in and things were shaping up really well. Finn, who you saw on camera there, was providing some great support and we were having some great chats as we were running. He's running the London Marathon next month, so please do show him some support. I think the only thing to pick up on at this point was that the terrain had changed as we'd progressed out of Worcester city centre and into the countryside, from more of a paved pathway into much more trail running type routes, which was difficult. There was some pretty deep and sticky mud, which was easily up to your ankles, but the pace that we maintained was actually still pretty impressive, and I'll throw the splits up on screen. We weren't going for a specific time, but who knows, maybe if we'd been able to continue that pace before things went wrong, we could have got a really good time. But it's not about running times, this is about completing 12 marathons.
15k in, definitely broken into my stride now.
I think I've broken my stride altogether.
Feeling a lot better than I did at 10. Head down and get to the halfway point now. A bit of ankle deep mud,
But we survived.
and we're still going. Catch you at the halfway point.
So if I tell you that at 16k, everything started going wrong, and this video was filmed at 15k, then you can forgive the fact that I find this clip quite so amusing. Looking back on it, it is true that at 15k I felt really good and the run was going really well. It was a lovely sunny day. Finn and I were setting a brilliant pace, having a great time, chatting between each other, and as a runner you really can't ask for a lot more until it goes wrong. And I think this is a great point to talk about the support and who is providing the support as I do these runs throughout the year. Obviously, I've got people joining me for these runs, which is fantastic. But the guy that keeps me fueled and keeps me going on my runs, as I mentioned in my first video, is my dad. My dad meets me at 15k and 30k on my marathons. At these points, I give him my empty water bottles, which contain water and my isotonic fluids and electrolytes. I exchange the empty bottles and in return, a kilometre later, he'll give me the full bottles. Bob's your uncle, I can run and focus on the marathon in hand. On this run, he joined me on a bike, which again, actually was fine. The first 15 kilometres, everything was good until it wasn't. And that's where we get to. He was on a bike, he had all my fluids, all my gels, everything I needed for the rest of the run. So at 15k in, I was really looking forward to reaching my dad, who at 16k would be handing me fresh and full water bottles, as well as all the other gels that I needed to take me to the 30k mark, whereby we'd repeat the same sort of pit stop process again. I am sure you can see where this goes wrong.
Halfway point.
Lovely stuff. everyone is now with. But we've had a bit of a disaster. My dad, who was on a bike supporting me, has had a flat tyre, and I have no fuel, water or isotonics on me. It's part of the challenge. We're just gonna have to sort of pace ourselves, stretch where necessary and get through the marathon. Maybe we won't run this entire one, but it's a race of 12, not one. See ya.
A flat tyre. Yep, something that simple, something that should be easily fixable. We didn't bring a puncture repair kit, so at 17k in, that was it for my dad. My man, with all my support, food, water, electrolytes, everything that I needed was gone. This point was undoubtedly the most difficult challenge that I have faced so far. It just set me back mentally, you know, a million miles. It's often that when you commit yourself to participating in an endurance sport, whether it's running, cycling, whatever, you often hear the phrase that athletes hit the wall, and it's almost like your body is trying to make you slow and stop, and your mind's trying to convince your body that it can't go any further. And at 20k, 21k, when I found out my dad wasn't going to be on this run anymore, I hit the wall like I've never done so before, and maybe I'll hit it harder in the future, but this was so difficult that I was almost lost at what to do, but I just knew that I had to keep running. Luckily, my girlfriend had brought along a crack team of triathletes to run the second half with me. At Bromsgrove, I waved goodbye to Finn, who ran the first half with me, and along came Ellie and her friends who do triathlon at the University of Birmingham, as well as a few mates who also came down to run the second half. Without them, this really wouldn't have been possible because they supported me in every way. They really got me through the second half, and I owe them so much thanks.
Update, feeling good. Will's got his headphones in.
Yeah, he's powering on and we're keeping him going at the back.
Woo! Evan got the isotonics for him and he's happy as Larry. Here we go.
So 30k in, I think I now am qualified to talk to you about how not to run a marathon. So between the halfway point and 30k, we actually got really unfortunate and we came across a section of the canal that was closed to the public. Ended up having to climb over barbed wire fencing, and obviously with shaky legs that have run about 27, 28k, which were also cramping like there was no tomorrow. Getting over this barbed wire was super tough, but it was the path that we were meant to take. It's just we weren't informed that the canal was closed. That proved obviously really difficult. I thought at that point, are we gonna have to turn around? Are we gonna have to find an alternate route? Luckily, the guys that were with me were so supportive and let's continue, head down and plow on, and we did, and we actually ended up on some pretty nice stretches of canal, although at this point, I don't think I was really taking in much of the scenery. My quads were cramping like there was no tomorrow, and it was really tough because my legs were just constantly cramping. No amount of stretching, which I did stop to do, was helping. Just had to keep moving and run through it. It was never ending.
I'm absolutely we're still going. Black and minerals. But we're nearly there. 7 minutes to go.
Probably the world's most quiet video that I'll film. I don't think my mind was really on audio at this point. I also managed to film as well at the 35k mark because I knew my phone was about to die. Luckily, I recorded all my data for Nike and Strava on my Apple Watch, so the run route was safe in that regard. But for Instagram updates and filming for my YouTube videos, etc, the phone died and I hadn't brought a portable charger, which I did on my first run, and for some reason I just didn't on my second. Only got myself to blame there. Silly move, always charge your devices before going on a marathon. At this point, we were actually on the outskirts of Birmingham. We'd come off the canal path, and this was our longest stretch where we weren't on the canal side. The first mile coming off the canal was just the steepest hills getting into Birmingham, and I don't know why, I didn't expect it. I'd scouted it out on the map, it didn't look too bad. Always check your hills, use the gradients, use a contour map if you need to, because I didn't, and these hills were destroying my already beaten up legs, and the cramp reached new levels, but we kept going. We got there. Yeah, I was desperate to film this clip because, like I mentioned, my phone was about to die and I just wanted to get some content out there for you guys, and I'm sorry that the audio sucks. I will try and work on that for future. Yeah, not really a scene from Chariots of Fire, to be honest. That was me completing the marathon. That was the last couple 100 meters, which I felt like I was dragging my body over, hence the terrible running form. But I didn't really care at that point. I was just so happy that we'd got to the finish line, because the last 20 odd K, I'd been constantly questioning myself about whether I could do it. And thanks to the amazing people who supported me on that run, we did get to the finish line, completed the second marathon. Let me tell you, please do not make any of the mistakes that I did on that second marathon. Seriously, it will make your life an absolute chore. But like I say, we did get there in the end. Brilliant team of people who came along. Shout out to everyone who was messaging me on Instagram as well throughout. Your support was amazing from home. And I'm just so happy that we managed to complete the second marathon. Looking back on it now, being able to complete a marathon with so many obstacles that kept on cropping up, it's a testament to the fact that you guys are spurring me on to keep going with this challenge, and that the battle is bigger than the pain that I feel on these days where I'm running a marathon. That was always the point. The people who are out there living with mental health difficulties, their battle is constant, and mine is a choice that I make on one day of a month and not every day of my life. So I wanted to keep running and complete that run for all of you who are living with mental health difficulties or know people who are living with mental health difficulties. That is the purpose of these runs. Anyway, Marathon 2, we did complete. We got there in the end, we did it. Don't run a marathon like me. Always do your research, charge your devices. Don't be put off by closed paths. Maybe don't run on a muddy, boggy path after it's been raining. Lots of things to take away from this. So much experience. I am actually quite happy with that run, because the fact it was so difficult and so challenging just means that hopefully my next marathon will feel a lot easier, and mentally as well. You know, that's a reference point now for me to look back on and go, well, listen, if I can complete a marathon with such unfavourable circumstances and conditions, there's no reason that I can't do whatever marathon I'm currently undertaking, or whatever run or task that I'm doing in my life. Massive learning points for me, loads to take away, loads of experience, good and bad, of course, and shout out to those guys that were running with me, because like I said before, wouldn't have got through that run without them. They were absolutely brilliant. And also a big thank you to everyone else at home and on those runs who's been donating to the fundraising page. We're absolutely smashing it. There's 10 marathons yet to run, and still plenty of work for us all to do. I'm Will Armstrong. I'm running 12 marathons in 12 months with one mission. I will see you all very soon.